Recently, you've probably seen a lot more of this, the Cyrillic alphabet. Because of certain world events recently, the Cyrillic alphabet has gained recognition in the global spotlight. You'll increasingly encounter the Cyrillic script in news reports and international media. What's fascinating about the Cyrillic script is that it's far newer than the Latin alphabet that English uses, and its history is closely tied to the history of the Slavic peoples. This writing system, which is integral to most Eastern European and several Central Asian languages, is not just a collection of letters. It actually tells the story of the cultural and religious history of the Slavic peoples. Our story begins in Thessalonica in the 8th century, where two brothers were born named Michael and Constantine. There actually were 7 brothers, but we're only interested in these 2. We know them by their monastic names, Methodius and Cyril. Methodius initially pursued a career in administration, serving as governor of a Slavic region of Greece. Cyril was educated in Constantinople in theology, philosophy, and linguistics. In 862, Prince Radoslav of Great Moravia suggested that Emperor Michael III and the Patriarch Photius send missionaries to evangelize his Slavic subjects. His motives were probably more political than religious. The people of Great Moravia had already accepted Christianity. In his letter, Radoslav told the emperor that his people, quote, had already rejected paganism and adhered to the Christian law. Radoslav had become king with the support of the Frankish ruler Louis the German, but Radoslav wanted to flex his independence from the Franks. So he expelled missionaries of the Roman Church and instead turned to Constantinople for ecclesiastical assistance and a degree of political support. The request provided a convenient opportunity to expand Byzantine influence. The emperor quickly chose to send Cyril and Methodius. In 863, they began the task of translating the Gospels of the New Testament and other essential liturgical texts into what is now known as Old Church Slavonic. To do so, Cyril created what is known today as the Glagolitic script. This script was unique in its design, incorporating elements of the Greek and Hebrew alphabets to represent the specific sounds of the Slavic languages. Cyril and Methodius also created a Slavonic liturgy. Creating a liturgy in the vernacular was very unusual for the time, and this Slavonic liturgy was the source of many conflicts in the coming years. The creation of the Glagolitic script was a significant achievement, as it allowed the Slavs to access religious texts in their native language, fostering a sense of cultural and religious identity. Before the creation of this alphabet, the Slavs had no standardized writing system. The Glagolitic script was the first attempt to provide the Slavs with a written language. Cyril and Methodius found great success in evangelizing in Great Moravia, but they came into conflict with German ecclesiastics, who opposed their efforts to create a vernacular liturgy. The church had not yet split. That wouldn't happen for another 200 years. Seeking to avoid dissension among Christians, the two brothers decided to go directly to Pope Adrian II to appeal to him. They traveled to Rome in 868, where they were well received, and the Pope approved the use of the Slavic liturgy. It was in Rome that Cyril became a monk and was named Cyril. He died just 50 days later. Methodius continued evangelizing to the Slavs for the next 16 years, first in Pannonia and then in Moravia. The details of the politics of this time are a little beyond the scope of this video, but suffice it to say that the German bishops were not happy with Methodius and had him jailed in Germany. Pope John VIII secured his release from prison in 873, but instructed him to stop using the Slavonic liturgy. This was reversed in 878, however. When Methodius died in 885, the brewing animosity erupted into open conflict. The new Pope Stephen V did not recognize Methodius' successor, forbade the Slavonic liturgy, and exiled the disciples of Methodius and Cyril. They fled to the First Bulgarian Empire, where they established the Ohrid Literary School and the Preslav Literary School. It was at these schools, especially in Ohrid, where the disciples of St. Cyril and St. Methodius developed a new alphabet that came to be named after St. Cyril, the Cyrillic alphabet. Today, St. Cyril and St. Methodius are revered as the apostles to the Slavs for their missionary work and their development of the Glagolitic script. They are celebrated in the Eastern Orthodox, Roman Catholic, and several other Christian traditions. Despite its innovative design, the Glagolitic script was complex and not widely adopted. The Cyrillic script was developed to be simpler and more adaptable than the Glagolitic script. It borrowed heavily from the Greek alphabet, with additional letters to represent Slavic sounds not found in Greek. The Glagolitic and Cyrillic scripts, while related, have several differences. 1. Design and appearance. The Glagolitic script is more intricate and ornate compared to the Cyrillic script. Glagolitic characters are often round and complex, while Cyrillic characters are more angular and straightforward. For example, the Glagolitic letter for the sound is a complex design, whereas the Cyrillic letter M is simpler and resembles its Greek counterpart. This simplicity made the Cyrillic script easier to learn and use, contributing to its wider adoption. 2. Alphabetical composition. The Glagolitic alphabet consists of 41 characters designed to represent the sounds of Old Church Slavonic. In contrast, the original Cyrillic alphabet had fewer letters but evolved over time to include additional characters as needed. The Cyrillic script borrowed 24 letters directly from the Greek alphabet and added several new letters to represent specific Slavic sounds. Having fewer letters also made it easier to learn than Glagolitic. 3. Usage and adaptability. The Glagolitic script was primarily used for religious texts and did not achieve widespread secular use. On the other hand, the Cyrillic script was used not only for religious purposes, but also for administration, literature, and other secular activities. Its adaptability allowed it to be modified for use in various languages and dialects. The Cyrillic alphabet was first adopted by the Bulgarians. It quickly spread to other Slavic peoples, including the Serbs, Russians, and Ukrainians. The adoption of the Cyrillic script was usually accompanied by the spread of Eastern Orthodox Christianity, which further solidified its use in religious and cultural contexts. The Cyrillic script also facilitated the administration of the expanding Slavic states, providing a means for record-keeping, legal documentation, and correspondence. This contributed to the development of a literate and bureaucratically organized society. Over the centuries, the Cyrillic alphabet has undergone numerous changes and adaptations. The most significant changes occurred in the 18th century during Peter the Great's reign as Russian Tsar. Peter, known for his ambitious reforms aimed at modernizing Russia, recognized the need for a more efficient and standardized writing system. The existing Cyrillic alphabet, while functional, was seen as cumbersome and antiquated, hindering Russia's integration into the broader European intellectual and cultural spheres. The reforms of the Cyrillic alphabet were therefore a crucial aspect of Peter's westernization policies, reflecting his desire to streamline administration, education, and printing. Peter the Great introduced a series of changes to simplify the Cyrillic script. This included reducing the number of characters and removing those deemed unnecessary or redundant. The aim was to make the script easier to learn and use, particularly in printing and education. Some of the more ornate and complex letters were replaced with simpler forms inspired by the Latin alphabet, reducing the cost and complexity of publishing. One of the most significant changes was this introduction, which was a more streamlined version of the traditional Cyrillic script. This new script was less ornate and more practical for everyday use, especially in secular contexts. The civil script was intended to be used in non-religious texts, while the old script continued to be used for religious documents. This dual script system allowed for clearer distinction between religious and secular writings. Peter's reforms also addressed inconsistencies in typography and orthography. He established standardized rules for the use of uppercase and lowercase letters, punctuation, and spacing. This standardization ensured consistency and readability across printed materials. It also facilitated the production of textbooks and other educational material, which was essential for Peter's educational reforms. This reformed Cyrillic alphabet was influenced by contemporary European scripts, particularly the Latin alphabet. Peter's exposure to Western European cultures during his travels inspired him to adopt certain typographical elements that would make Russian texts more accessible to European readers and printers. This included the use of regularized letter forms and more systemic use of punctuation, which aligned Russian printing practices with those of Western Europe. The reforms of the Cyrillic alphabet had a significant impact on Russian society. By simplifying and standardizing the script, Peter the Great made literacy more accessible to a broader segment of the population. The introduction of the civil script facilitated the spread of secular education and the growth of a literate bureaucratic class. Furthermore, the reformed Cyrillic script helped to integrate Russia into the European cultural and intellectual mainstream. Today, the Cyrillic alphabet is used by many languages, including Russian, Bulgarian, Serbian, and Ukrainian. Each language has its own version of the Cyrillic alphabet, with variations in the letters and their pronunciation. The Cyrillic script also has a significant cultural impact outside of the Slavic world. The influence of the Soviet Union in particular led many nations to adopt the Cyrillic alphabet, for example in Mongolia, which replaced the traditional Mongolian script. However, in the wake of the Soviet Union's collapse, and often in an effort to distance themselves from modern Russia, several nations are abandoning or have abandoned the Cyrillic alphabet. For example, Azerbaijan primarily uses the Latin alphabet, and Mongolia will have fully reverted to its traditional script by 2025. This isn't without precedent. Romania once used the Cyrillic alphabet, but abandoned it in the 19th century for the Latin alphabet. In nations like Macedonia, the Latin alphabet has seen an increased influence, and there are even currently proposals to adopt the Latin alphabet in Ukraine, mostly spurred by anti-Russian sentiment. The Cyrillic alphabet has a rich and complex history that reflects the cultural and religious influences that shaped the Slavic world. From its origins in the First Bulgarian Empire to its modern adaptations, the Cyrillic alphabet has played a vital role in the development of Slavic culture and identity. But the association of the alphabet with Russia and the political developments of nations in relation to Russia may pose a threat to its use, even in nations with a long history of using the Cyrillic alphabet, especially Ukraine. Time will tell what happens to this fascinating script. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked that video, you're going to really like this one about the Romanian history and language. You can also check out our latest video right up here. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more content just like this.